If you're a B2B SaaS or service founder and you want to use LinkedIn to grow an audience, but more importantly, get leads for your business, this video is going to show you the exact 7-step framework that you could use to grow from scratch over the next 6 months. Today, I'll show you exactly how to set up your profile to convert impressions into followers and, again, more importantly, customers for your company. I'll show you how to set up and create a content calendar for the next 30 to 90 days full of content that's going to attract your ICP. Going to give you some formulas to write scroll-stopping hooks, the most important part of every single post. And of course, I'll give you plenty of real-life examples of B2B SaaS founders who have been crushing it on LinkedIn so you can add their content to your inspiration folder and never start from a blank page ever again. Okay, but who am I to talk about this subject? If you're new around here, my name's Tommy Clark. I'm founder and CEO at Compound. We're a B2B social agency focused on launching founder-led content presences for B2B SaaS founders. And over the past 17 months, I've helped over 30 SaaS founders launch a LinkedIn content presence and use it to grow an audience and get leads. Prior to that, I was head of social at a Series A startup called Triple Whale, and I've also used LinkedIn to keep my own agency, Compound, at or near capacity for the entire time we've been in existence. So I've got plenty of experience posting LinkedIn content, and I want to share it all with you today. Now, the first thing I want to discuss with you here is tracking and attribution. So how do you actually make sure this stuff is working? And attribution for organic social is kind of a black box, and to be honest, there's no hard and set solution for this. The best thing that I've found is literally if you get on a sales call, just do self-reported and ask the prospect, how'd you hear about us? It's not going to be perfect. Things are going to slip through the cracks, but if you're posting on LinkedIn for 90 days, 120 days, 6 months, 12 months, and you're doing it right, you're going to see a lift in the amount of people that say they found you through organic social, they found you through LinkedIn, they found you through your founder's LinkedIn. If you execute this right, there should be a noticeable pattern there. You should also see reply rates on your cold outbound on LinkedIn go up because you'll actually have a content presence and a reason for people to reply to you. Think about it. Your LinkedIn DMs are probably a war zone right now. There are some founders I talk to that have hundreds of in-mails and just unsolicited DMs sitting in their inbox, and they're never going to go through them because they don't know the person. But if you get a DM from a friend or someone you recognize, you're going to be more likely to answer. So if you're posting founder-led content, that's a way to create that sort of trust and connection with your audience at scale. So when you do slide into their DMs, that sounds kind of weird, but it's true what you're doing. When you slide into their DMs in a business context, they're going to be more likely to reply. But really one area a lot of SaaS founders get social wrong is they try to over measure. I saw this post from Dave Gerhardt earlier this week, and I think it's worth bringing up here. He talked about how they ran a campaign for his media company called Exit 5 on LinkedIn to see if they could generate some trials, and he had every one of his team members post about the promotion on LinkedIn. And you can see the results on screen here, but really the TLDR is they got 35 new trials and over $6,000 in annual revenue just off the back of those handful of posts. The thing is, he didn't use UTM links. He didn't try to over measure. He just trusted that because they built up this trust with their audience over the course of years building affinity with social content, that if he was to make an ask, that they would reciprocate. And that was the case. And that's what you see a lot. A lot of times, SaaS companies, especially in B2B, try to game the system and try to go super direct response too early. The more you can give without directly asking, shout out to Gary Vee, as Dave said in his post up there on the screen, but the more you can give without asking, the more effective that ask is going to be when you make it. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, how do you set up your profile to convert the traffic that you're going to get from the content calendar that I'll lay out in a second here? How do you set up your profile to convert that traffic into followers and customers? The analogy I want to use is that you want to think of your LinkedIn profile like a landing page. How can you set it up to best convert that traffic? Think about how you do conversion rate optimization on a landing page when you're driving traffic from paid ads or from a social post. You want to take the same approach with your profile. And there's a few components here. Number one is your profile picture. So I'll show you mine as an example. If you look at my profile picture, very clear. It's zoomed in on my face. You don't want it to be showing your entire upper body. It's not going to be zoomed in enough. Think about how you're viewing it on mobile. You want it to be zoomed in. You want it to be clear. You ideally want it to be a solid color in the background. You don't want a lot going on. And you want it to be very recognizable. So just modeling it after this example will get you all the way there. Don't overthink this. The second piece to your profile optimization is you want to have your headline dialed in. And a lot of people overthink this piece. Like, don't make it anything fancy. There's a simple formula for this that I want you to bookmark. Role plus company plus value prop. So what's your role? So I'm CEO. What's your company at Compound? And then what's a value prop? So if you look at my profile, again, CEO at Compound, building a social media agency for B2B companies. I also had this note on social files just to note that I have a newsletter, but I probably could actually get rid of this piece at this point. But CEO at Compound, building a social media agency for B2B companies. See how it's the role, the company, value prop. use that same exact formula. What you don't want to do is have something cringe in the headline. A lot of people overdo this and they're like B2B marketing unicorn or helping e-commerce brands skyrocket conversions and attract dream customers. Like, guys, let's just keep it simple. Say what you do, say what your role is, and say what the company is. That's all you have to do. For serious buyers, a lot of times those over-the-top sort of exaggerated descriptions actually turn them off because they're like, okay, this person doesn't know what they're doing. They're clearly trying to oversell themselves. Just keep it simple. Your bio also doesn't have to be incredibly complex. So looking at the example that is on my screen right now, it's a scaling compound content studio, social agency for B2B companies who want to launch organic social media presence that creates real community, generates product demand, and increases revenue, our personal favorite. Also writing a weekly newsletter. But you see how it's just simple? You don't have to overthink this. One other thing that I might do here is include a customer testimonial or some sort of case study to add some more social proof. Again, you want to give people a reason to convert into a follower or perhaps a customer if they're interested in a product of yours. The last component of your profile optimization is going to be your featured link, and you want to have 1 to 2 featured links up here. Don't make it a million. Think of it like ordering food from your favorite restaurant. If the menu is so overwhelming and has like 100 different items and is very disorganized, you're going to have a hard time picking what to order. Whereas if there's a list of 5 things that the restaurant's known for and you know what you want and it's very clear, you're going to have a lot easier of a time picking what you want because there just aren't that many options to choose from. Same idea here. You want to keep it to 1 to 2 featured links max. What I like to do is I like to have a lead magnet and I like to have either a case study or a product. So in my case, it is my lead magnet, which is Social Files, my newsletter, and it's my digital product, which is my 50 plus winning LinkedIn content templates. By the way, if you want that, I'll link it below, but I have that in my LinkedIn bio as well. One other tactic for a featured link, which I like for SaaS founders in particular, is using one of your case studies as the featured link, because again, that shows social proof. In other words, who else uses this product and what tangible results have they seen? The more of that you can overwhelm your audience with, the more likely they're going to be to convert. Now that your profile is set up to convert that traffic, how do you actually get the traffic? So what are you going to post about on your LinkedIn? And it's actually not that complex. To start, you need to answer one very simple question that a surprising amount of founders don't even take the time to think about, which is why is someone in your ICP going to follow your account? And it sounds crazy simple, but again, not a lot of people think about this, especially in B2B. But when I think about why someone's going to follow me, people are following me on LinkedIn or on YouTube, like you're watching me right now, to get better at B2B social content strategy. You want to grow an audience on LinkedIn. Maybe you want to grow an audience on X. Maybe you want to grow your newsletter, but you're following me to get better at B2B content. I have a very clear value prop and I'm uniquely suited to educate you on that value prop. My experience is in alignment with that and it ties into my product or service. So you want to have a few things here. What are you uniquely suited to talk about? And how can you tie it into your product or service? So a lot of times the best founders on LinkedIn were their ICP at some point. So if you've seen a few of my videos, you've heard me mention this analogy or example before, but say you were a VP of sales at a fast growing startup. If you went and started your own company in like the go-to-market tech space where you're selling into other salespeople or other revenue leaders, you're going to have a pretty easy time building an audience because you have a lot of inherent credibility. You have stories and anecdotes and data and also trust built with your network already around a very specific topic set that is also aligned with your product and what you're actually selling. Another component here is you want to have a unique point of view. And again, sounds obvious, but most companies don't do this. What are you saying on social and what does your company believe that most others in your category would disagree with you on? In other words, what's a hot take that you have? And you need to be willing to take the risk to put yourself out there. A lot of founders are scared to do this, and that's why a lot of B2B social is so sterile and bland and boring. You need to have a unique point of view. So for me, my unique point of view is that organic social is one of the best ways for founders to generate demand for their product, and I believe that every single B2B founder should be posting on social in some capacity. Not everyone believes that. Some people are going to say, oh, SEO is better, or X channel is better, or Y channel is better, and that's fine. I don't necessarily agree. I think social is the way to go for a lot of early stage companies, but that's the hill I'm going to die on in my content, and that gives me something to talk about. The example that I often call back to here, because we worked with him early on, and for some reason it's just always top of mind, is Jimmy Kim from SendLane. He's taken a very clear stance on social that he's going up against Klaviyo, the industry incumbent in the e-commerce ESP category, and he's going at them on social. And yeah, that's risky. Yeah, some people might be put off by that, but he's gotten a lot of attention because of it. And I think in a recent podcast he talked about how he generated $6 million in pipeline from organic social. That doesn't happen with a sterile, bland point of view. So if you're going to do nothing else, answer these 2 questions. First and foremost, why is someone going to follow you? Like, what's the expertise that you have that you're uniquely suited to talk about? And 2, what is your unique point of view on what you're solving for your industry or for your ICP? Now, as far as how to break that up into a content calendar, I like to organize this this in a content funnel. So you have top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Top of funnel is like your broad founder story, general entrepreneurship content. It casts a wider net. You're going to get a lot more engagement on this content on LinkedIn because people just eat it up, but it's not as targeted, and you're going to get some people following you and engaging that aren't necessarily in your ICP. Middle of funnel is still value-based. You're not making a super hard sales pitch. You're adding value here, but the topics of the middle of funnel content are more targeted to your specific ICP. So whereas top of funnel might be more like broad, hey, here's what I learned as a founder, or here's 5 things I wish I knew before I started a company. Middle of funnel content might be 5 things I wish I knew before I became an AE. So if you're selling into AEs or salespeople, you see the difference there? Like one is more general and then one is speaking directly to your ICP. Both have a purpose. Now, bottom of funnel, pretty straightforward. That's going to be your product related content. So case studies, feature highlights, launches, all stuff that if we think about it in startup terms, think about your total addressable market. The same thing applies to content. That top of funnel content has a very large total addressable audience. Bottom of funnel content doesn't have a very large total addressable audience. There's a smaller amount of people that's going to reach, but the people that it is going to reach and that are going to engage with that are more likely to convert. So you want to have a good balance of all 3. The exact split that I would recommend is 20% top of funnel, 60% middle of funnel. The majority of your content should be going in there, and 20% bottom of funnel. A lot of the mistakes and a lot of the LinkedIn performance issues that you can see in your content can often be traced back to a misbalanced content funnel. If you're too far top of funnel, you're going to build an audience and you're going to get a lot of impressions, but they're not going to be super high quality impressions or super high quality followers because you're casting that very wide net. You might get some people in your ICP, but you're also going to get a lot of people that really aren't ever going to buy from you. On the flip side, if you're going super hard bottom of funnel, you're not going to build much of an audience in the first place. All you're going to do is exhaust the warm leads that are already in your network to begin with, and then you're pretty much selling to an empty room, which we don't want to do either. So think about it like this. Top of funnel and middle of funnel content fill the room that you're selling to, and then bottom of funnel content converts that full room into buyers. But once you convert them, that room's empty again, so you got to fill that room up again with that top of funnel and middle of funnel content. You see how that works? And the thing to remember on social as a B2B company is a lot of companies have something to sell, but very few people have something to say. You want to have something unique to say and valuable to say to your audience on social, and that will eventually allow you to sell to them, or the audience will sell themselves because they're so trusting of you that when they need something in your category, your brand is going to be the first one that they think of. We saw this happen a lot with Triple Whale. We definitely took a lot more of a humorous approach on social, more so than I would recommend for a lot of companies now. I wouldn't try to replicate that playbook, but because we built so much trust and people just liked to be around the brand, when people in the e-commerce category wanted a attribution solution, they often went to Triple Whale as the first option because we were so top of mind for them, because of the way we made them feel. We had a lot to say, and eventually we sold people. Now, how often should you post? So what should this calendar actually look like? For a founder on LinkedIn who wants to grow an audience and generate demand, I would recommend 5 times per week. Not once per week, not once per month, 5 times per week. I promise it's not too much. I'm not going to expand on that too much here because I want to keep this concise, but 5 times per week, if you want to take LinkedIn seriously, that is the cadence. Now, one of those posts is going to be a top of funnel post like we just mentioned. Here's an example. So if we look at this one, this is a post from Shreyas, one of the founders we write for, and it's a origin story post. So it's talking about the origin story of his startup called Fermat, and you can see that it's just talking about how he met his founder Rishabh and everything that went into that. I'll let you pause if you want to read the entire post. There's a real life photo, which also tends to help posts perform better. Just a quick hack, if not hack, but just something to consider when you're posting on LinkedIn. I'm noticing that posts with media tend to overperform right now, especially if it's a real life photo of the founders or something that's relevant to the post topic. So this was about the founding story. The image is featuring the 2 co-founders. Very clear overlap there. And as you can see, the post did quite well. So over 200 likes, good amount of engagement, decent amount of reposts, but not a ton, but a good top of funnel post. If you haven't posted it yet, one idea that you can just take from this video and do right now is an origin story post. Every single time we do these for clients, I see them rip. So if you haven't done it, post the story of how you started the company, what that light bulb moment was for you. But you're going to want to do one top of funnel post. Now, second one is going to be middle of funnel content. So you're going to do 3 variations of these. And again, this is that content that is more, it's still value add. It's not a direct sales pitch, but it's more specific to your ICP. So here's an example of one that I did. I literally gave away the entire framework that we use to run founder-led social for Series A CEOs. So if you want to bookmark this on screen right now, steal that playbook as well, but see how it's just adding value, but it's speaking specifically to my target audience. So Series Series A CEOs or Series A marketers who want to post on LinkedIn are going to see this post and find a lot of value in it, but someone who isn't a Series A CEO isn't, and that's fine. I don't want them to, but I'm building trust with that target audience. And you know what's crazy about this one? So I posted this, and then 2 days later, I got on a sales call with a founder who didn't find me through this post, but they had booked the sales call. I got on the call, and they had cited this post on the sales call. I was like, oh yeah, I saw this post. When I started getting into my pitch on like how things work, they're like, oh, I'm good. I actually already understand it, and they closed right there. That's a great example of how LinkedIn content can, yes, get new people into the room, but also serve as sales collateral for your B2B company. Now, you'll do 3 middle of funnel posts, and then you'll also do 1 bottom of funnel post. So this is going to be a case study, a feature highlight, something that's more product related. Because again, we are trying to get customers here. I'm not trying to make you into a celebrity. I'm trying to get you customers. So we do want to have stuff that's a bit salesy. Back earlier in my marketing career, I always thought that, oh, you never want to mention your product on social. That's too salesy. And yes, there's truth to that. You don't want to make every post into a sales pitch, but you do need to sell stuff. Like that's why companies are hiring us. That's why CEOs work with Compound. If you're in an in-house role, that's why CEOs are going to hire you. So you want to make sure you're selling people. Now, an example of a bottom of funnel post that I think is very high quality is this company update style of post. So essentially this post format is at the end of every month, you're going to share what the 3 biggest wins were, what your 3 biggest learnings were, and what is next on the roadmap. But something very specific that's company and product related that again, isn't going to have a massive target audience, but the people that are going to find this interesting and engage with it are very high quality leads that can eventually turn into customers. So again, 1 top of funnel post, 3 middle of funnel post, 1 bottom of funnel post. Now, if you see this and you're like, okay, cool, but I don't know what to post and like what prompts to follow and what topics I should post about. I want to keep this video a bit more concise, but I have another video on the channel that goes through 3 post templates you can literally steal today. And on top of that, I have a database that I'll link in the description below that has over 50 examples of prompts that you can ask yourself to get unique, compelling, high-performing post ideas. So I'll link that down below if you want to check that out. Now, we've got the posting stuff down. You know how often to post, you know what you're going to post about, you have your unique point of view, you have a reason that people are going to follow you. Your profile is set up to convert that traffic into followers and customers. Now, posting isn't enough though. And especially if you're starting from scratch here, if you're at or near 0 followers on LinkedIn or kind of below that 1,000 follower mark, you don't want to just be posting, you want to be engaging as well. So there's 2 sub buckets to this. Number 1 is going to be your outbound commenting, and number 2 is going to be your outbound connection. So outbound commenting, all you're going to do is spend about 15 or so minutes per day finding relevant accounts to leave thoughtful comments on. So there's 2 types of accounts that you're going to do this for. Number 1 is ICP accounts. So potential customers, these could be sales prospects that you're already in conversations with or brands that you just want to get on the radar of. And if they're active on LinkedIn, you can connect with them and start commenting on their post whenever something goes live from them. You want this to be genuine and not spammy. And again, don't make it a sales pitch. No one likes that. It's not going to work for you. I promise. Just be cool. The other type of account that you can comment on is not necessarily ICP account, but other influencers and thought leaders that your ICP is following. And this is especially helpful in categories where the end consumer is not actually that active in posting on LinkedIn. Because everyone says, oh, go comment on your ICP's post. But if the person you're trying to target or the type of person that you're trying to target on LinkedIn isn't posting super often on the platform, like what post do you comment on? But a lot of times they're lurkers. They're on the platform, they're reading and watching stuff, but they're not actually posting themselves. So say, for example, I'm targeting e-commerce founders. The founders themselves might not be super active. There are a good amount of them who are, and that's a hot topic that I won't get into, but a lot of them might not be super active themselves posting on LinkedIn, but they're following people like say a Nick Sharma or a Taylor Holiday or other thought leaders in the space, often agency owners or SaaS providers who are posting valuable content, but aren't brand founders themselves. So the brand founders are seeing their stuff, but they're not necessarily posting. You want to comment on their stuff as well. So that way your comment, as long as it's thoughtful, not AI generated, please do not use the AI recommendations that LinkedIn gives. I don't know why those are a feature. They're so bad, and just don't use them. But if you leave genuine comments on these people's posts, you're going to get in front of them and in front of more people in your ICP and just get more profile views, more visibility in your own content. And you're going to start to notice that after a while, you're not posting into the void anymore. Because a lot of those people whose posts you commented on are now commenting on your post, now engaging with your post, and your posts are getting amplified to their audience. And it just creates this flywheel of momentum. So commenting is one piece. I'd recommend, just to give you a hard rule, social, 15 minutes a day, about 10 to 20 outbound comments. You don't want it to be overwhelming. You should not be spending your entire day leaving 100 LinkedIn comments on every single post you can find. You have other things to do if you're a founder, I promise. But if you can just leave 10 to 20 comments a day, it'll take you about 15 minutes and it'll go a long way. The second component of this sort of outbound engagement is just sending connection requests. And again, this is also helpful when the person you're trying to reach on LinkedIn is active and they're reading stuff and they're lurking, but they're not actively posting. So you want to look up your ICP. So find them by job title, by company. You can use Sales Navigator, or you can just manually look for them. Or if you're scrolling the timeline and you see someone that could be a good fit, just send them a connection request. This actually is quite simple. A lot of people overcomplicate this. I've seen data that indicates that sending a connection request without a note, so you know how you can add a note to a connection request, in theory, that sounds like a good idea to make it more personalized, but honestly, a lot of people will be more likely to accept the connection request without a note. What I would look for is look for people with mutual connections. So say, for example, I was looking for heads of content at SaaS companies. I might look up head of content SaaS. I just did this manually. You could use Sales Navigator, but I just did it manually. And what I might do is say Alexander looks like he would be a good fit. Actually, you know what? I might not send this because he doesn't have a lot of mutual connections or any mutual connections, so he might not be likely to accept. But what I would do is look for people who are in the job title and then also have a few mutual connections. So you notice how Sadie here has 2 mutual connections with me. I might send that one. 2 is a little bit small of an amount, but let me keep looking. Okay, notice how Shayna has like 32 mutual connections. If I send a connection request here, I'm going to go send without a note. Again, it's going to convert better in most cases. If you have a genuine reason to add a note, like say, for example, you met someone at an event and you want to remind them like, hey, nice meeting you, that's totally fine. But you don't want to use templated stuff. If you're deciding between that and no note, just go no note. So send without note, and then there we go. I'd go through and do about 20 to 30 of those a day. And what this will do is it's going to manually add people to your audience, because when someone accepts a connection request, they're going to be more likely to see your content. So if they accept your connection request and then you make a post in the next 24 hours, it's almost guaranteed at this point that they're going to see that piece of content. And assuming it's good and relevant to them, they might like and engage and comment. And then once they're doing that, they're seeing your content over and over and over again. And when you're posting consistently at that 5 times per week cadence, now they're in this content flywheel and they're seeing your post, they're seeing your comments, and they're like, whoa, I'm seeing Tommy all over the place on LinkedIn. He seems like he knows what he's talking about when it comes to B2B social. And then when they need a B2B social agency, I'm going to be top of mind as the first option to go to. Same thing works for your company. So send those outbound comments and send those outbound connection requests. You can manually build up your audience without purely relying on posting into the void and hoping that the LinkedIn algorithm works its magic. As you do that, as you both post consistently and then do the work on the engagement side, you're going to notice that the algorithm will start to work in your favor as well. And now I want to run you through one of the finer points of LinkedIn content strategy here. So sort of LinkedIn content 201 versus 101. Once you're posting consistently and you're doing your engagement, you want to make sure those posts are set up for success. So balancing that content funnel is like the fundamental level of it. Closely above that is going to be making sure your hooks are dialed in. Your hook is everything that appears before that see more button. It is by far the most important part of your post. So if that hook isn't compelling enough, that audience member, that reader is just going to keep on scrolling and they're not going to click see more. They're not going to see your content, and then they're gone into the void, never to be seen again. So you want to make sure that your hook is set up to stop that scroll and get them interested. And there's a few specific tactics that you could use to do this well. Here are a few of them that I've found to work really well in the clients that we're posting for. The first one is going to be a story-based hook. So how can you make your hook feel like a story? Here's an example. So let's take a look at this example that I wrote 5 days ago. Compound, my agency, has had a full wait list of early stage SaaS companies wanting to work with us on LinkedIn content. I credit one tactic to the early momentum. So notice how I made it feel like a story versus just saying, hey, here's one tactic that will work to grow your audience on LinkedIn and get more sales. That could work too. That's not a bad hook, but making it a personal story immediately makes it something unique to me. So whereas here's one tactic to X, Y, and Z is a hook that might work, but anyone can post about that. The story that I included in this one is something that only I can post about. No one else has founded Compound over the past 15 months. Another example of a hook lever that you can pull is polarization or hot takes. And this is one, again, a lot of founders are afraid to use, but if you can be tastefully polarizing, I'm not saying, and we're in election season right now, so I'm not saying to go like full political extremist here and just like go insane, or to use that same energy in your industry. But what I am saying is that some degree of polarization and being willing to step on a few toes, ideally the toes of the people that aren't going to pay you in the first place, is not a bad thing and actually something I would encourage. So perhaps the king of this right now is Adam Robinson, founder and CEO of RB2B and retention.com. He's been getting into a Kendrick and Drake style of beef, but make it B2B SaaS. This example isn't part of that beef. I'll let you go dig through his profile to find that one. But notice this hook. So last quarter, Dave Gerhardt told me to let Eli Rubel redo our RB2B website and branding. The current version is a $75 Webflow template called SaaS. When I spoke to Eli, I told him I only care about one thing. Give me ugly, shocking branding that at least 80% of people in SaaS will hate. So notice how he leans into polarization, one, with wanting his website to be polarizing, but also in the text and the words he uses and chooses in this hook. Ugly, shocking, 80% of people in SaaS will hate. Notice how he leans into that, what we call negativity bias, to make the hook more compelling. It's a lot more interesting than saying, hey, we're in the process of getting a new website done. Hope you follow along. Like, notice the difference there. If you can be a bit more polarizing, and Adam is probably the extreme of this in B2B SaaS right now. And if you want to study LinkedIn content, look at his profile, but you don't need to take that full-on polarizing approach, but use some aspects of it in your writing to just give it that flair and give it that punchiness. Another simple example of a hook that works well is going to be listicles. So listicles make things easy to understand. Listicles and frameworks. You want to package things in a very easy to understand, savable way. Here's an example of that where I literally gave away another example of a time where I gave away the playbook that we use for SaaS founders. So one, screenshot this. Two, notice how I make it into very easily digestible steps. When you can break things up into steps, into lists, into frameworks, into templates, it makes it a lot easier to understand. And as such, your audience is going to be more likely to bookmark it, save it, share it with a friend, and also just engage and boost it in the algorithm. Hook example number 4 here is milestones. So one example of this is going to be new hire posts. LinkedIn eats milestones up. It was originally built as a way for people to post, hey, I got this job, or I'm humbled and excited to announce that I got this position as an accountant, or whatever the position that you're actually not super humbled and excited to accept. You're going to tell LinkedIn that you are. And as such, milestones tend to perform well, or when you can position things as milestones. One example of this in B2B SaaS would be when you make a new hire. You're going to be hiring a lot early on, especially if you're fundraising or you just raised a round or you're a growth stage company. You're going to be making a lot of new hires. Each one of those can turn into a post. Like Austin has been doing a fantastic job of that, and we've been seeing those posts perform very well compared to baseline. And the reason why is they're framed as milestones. That's another reason why those company update posts tend to do well as well, or like even feature launches, which are more bottom of funnel. If you can position it as a milestone that you're proud of versus a sales pitch, it's going to perform way better. So those are a few examples of hook techniques that you could use and how you can choose your words to make sure each one packs a punch and make sure your hooks are set up to stop the scroll. Now, once you've been posting for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, a quarter, and you have some data underneath your belt and you understand what works and what doesn't, this is where a lot of people go wrong. They kind of just go through the motions and they're like, oh, I'm posting 5 times a week, so I'm just going to blow up on LinkedIn and that's it. Not quite. What you want to do is after, say, you've posted for a month, look at the posts that overperformed. There are going to be posts that performed way above baseline. There's going to be posts that totally flopped. They were like, whoa, what happened there? I usually get like 20 likes on a post. This one got 2. And there's going to be your baseline. What you want to do is find the posts that went above baseline. So if there's a specific story that your audience resonates with, if there's a specific listicle or framework or template, or say you find that the company update posts do well, whatever that lever is for you, do more of that, like a lot more of that. Think of it like having a machine where if you put $1 in, you get $2 out. Nobody in their right mind wouldn't just keep jamming $1 bills into that machine because they're going to get more and more and more out. And the same thing can apply to your content. If you notice that, hey, this specific style of post works really well, or this story works really well, you want to do it over and over again. Now, I'm not saying to post the same thing every single day, but if you make an origin story post and it overperforms and you're like, whoa, this was like my best post ever, next month, see if you can either post it again or reword it or use a different angle or do a derivative of that. You want to build on your winners. And this is how content compounds, because when you first start, you don't know what's going to work well. When you start posting, you actually see what does work well. And then you start doing more of what works well. So your audience grows faster, you get more impressions, and you can just keep doing that at a faster and faster rate, of course, accounting for platform fluctuations. But generally, that's how content compounds. And part of why I chose to name my agency that way. Okay, so we covered a lot, but literally if you follow that blueprint, you're going to be in a fantastic spot 90 days from now. Now, as you see momentum on your founders page, or if you are the founder, as you start to see momentum on your personal account, what I'd recommend doing is starting to layer in other team members as sort of characters for your audience to follow along with. A lot of consumer brands do this really well, and a lot of the best B2B companies on social have been doing this masterfully on LinkedIn. Like look at Fermat or look at Exit 5. All of their team members are very active posting content. So if you want a rundown of how to do that for your own company, once you've nailed this initial founder-led content playbook, watch the next video that's up on screen right now. And then again, if you want some content ideas and prompts to just use to create your own high-performing content, I'll drop that database in the description below. But thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in that next video.